About one out of every 3 or 4 meetings, I'll say. And usually they have talked to them. They'll do all in favor, say aye. Yeah. No.
Oh no.
You're one more over.
Based on the video and that.
I say I'm gonna do what I'm doing. But I say it. If I say it out loud.
Ready when you are.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order July 14th, 2025 Apex Planning Board meeting. I'd like to ask Mr. Hastings for the invocation, please.
So the chair and vice chair are both absent. We do need a motion for an acting chair, a second, and then a vote. So if someone would like to make a motion.
Alyssa would like to make a motion to have Keith serve as our acting chair.
Second.
Okay, does everyone agree with that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Keith, you're it.
All right,
Thank
very
you.
much. Now you may proceed.
I'm going to see. Thank you.
Oh, bow our head. Heavenly Father, thank you for gathering us here today to do the work for the benefit of the town of Apex. Help us see the wisdom to make the right decisions after thorough discussions for what's best for all the community. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Items of information.
So I'm not sure why there's so much feedback. We might need IT to help us out. But in terms of the items of information, we are in the midst of the Apex Transit Prioritization Study. The purpose is to identify and prioritize future local transit improvements and expansions. The draft staff recommendations are out for public comment through August 3rd, and you can visit apexnc.org/transit study to review the recommendations and provide feedback. And so this is for all members of the public and members of the planning board. And that's all.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
We will now go into public comment. The purpose of public comment is to allow the public to speak on items that do not appear in this agenda under public hearings. Any member of the public wishing to comment on public hearing items will be called at the appropriate time later in the agenda. The public comment period is an opportunity for the public to express concerns or opinions, but is not intended to be a question and answer session. During public comment, the public may comment on any non-public hearing items, including new business items that appear in the agenda. Comments from public on new business items will not be taken later in the agenda, so if you wish to speak on new business items, public comment is the time to do so. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes. If there is a larger group of speakers of one particular item, the planning board chair may ask that a representative could be selected to speak for the entire group and limit the comments to 9 minutes. If not, comments on a single topic should not be repetitive in nature. Is there anybody that has any public comments at this time? If not, we will move on to consent item number 1. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes from the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting? Any questions?
Motion to approve the minutes from June 9th.
Steven seconds.
Have a motion and a second. Vote.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay, we will move on to item 1 from Gina for the senior long range planner. for the bicycle pedestrian plan.
Hi, good afternoon. Today I'll be presenting for public hearing number 1, amendments to the Apex Transportation Plan along New Hill Olive Chapel Road near US 64. So we're looking at the section of New Hill Olive Chapel Road between New Hill Road and US 64. And this area is being developed as a part of Apex Gateway Phase 2C. The first proposed amendment is to add proposed side path along the east side of the roadway between New Hill Road and Amberlight Road, connecting to existing greenway along the south side of the street, as well as existing sidewalk along the north side of Amberlight Road and existing sidewalk along the east side of New Hill Olive Chapel Road. This proposed side path would be in place of the proposed paved shoulder along this section of the roadway. Given that proposed paved shoulder is typically provided in rural contexts, and that no longer applies to this roadway, given that it serves as an entry point for 2 schools and residential neighborhoods. Additionally, to the west, New Hill Road continues north of US 64 onto NC 751, while New Hill Olive Chapel Road to the east ends at US 64. Bicycle facilities are not proposed along US 64, given the safety concerns associated with high-speed traffic, as well as conflicts with future interchanges along US 64. Given the addition of proposed side path and a lack of a bicycle connection to the north, it's recommended to remove the proposed paved shoulder along this section of New Hill Olive Chapel Road, while maintaining it along New Hill Road and New Hill Olive Chapel Road to the south. Planning staff, as well as staff in transportation and infrastructure development and parks, recreation, and cultural resources, recommend approval of the proposed amendments, and I'm here to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
So this would apply with the development of Apex Gateway as they develop those parcels.
Excuse me, yes, thank you for mentioning that. This slide actually shows that they've proposed the side path along the east side of the road between New Hill Road and Amberlight Road, and don't have the proposed paved shoulder shown. And this side path would connect to that greenway. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah.
I think this is just a very good example of staff continuing to fine tune. These recommendations and policies are just that. They need to be fine tuned as projects are proposed and come online. And so with that, I would recommend approval as proposed.
I'll second.
You need to open them.
Yep.
Pardon me. I didn't know there was public hearing since it was policy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have a public, would anyone like to speak? Anyone sign up to speak? So no one signed up to speak. So they'll bring that back to the board.
You gotta close the public hearing.
I'm sorry, close the public hearing, and I will bring that back to the board.
Motion as stands.
Second, Jeff Hastings.
Have a first and second. All approve?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
Aye. All the, that unanimous?
Yep.
Unanimous. Motion passed. All right, next is item 2. We're going to do Shannon Cox on the Apex Transportation Plans for rezoning case 24CZ10 for the Ashburg PUD.
All right, good afternoon. Hi, nice to meet you. We're going to test things here. This is a tricky one. So this item is associated with the rezoning case. That's the next item on your agenda. So I'll present the public hearing. Present the amendment. You'll have the public hearing, but hold off on voting until you hear the rezoning case, the next item. Okay, so just to orient you to the exhibit, we are going to focus on Mount Zion Church Road, which is here, and Hammocks Beach Trail. This green line along the top of the screen is Milano Avenue, and this is Richardson Road. The proposed amendment is to revise the alignment of the minor collector street. So our adopted plan follows the line here where the minor collector street would continue directly along Hammocks Beach Road, Hammocks Beach Trail. And Mount Zion Church Road would be realigned to tee into Hammocks Beach Trail. The proposal is really just to flip that and to tee Hammocks Beach Trail into Mount Zion Church Road and add a roundabout and then continue the minor collector. There's an additional proposed amendment to switch the side path, the 10-foot side path, from the east side of Hammocks Beach Trail to the west side of the street. All of these amendments are proposed to minimize impacts on adjacent properties that are not part of the rezoning. And you'll see the proposed rezoning with the next item, but this shifts the minor collector street as well as the side path completely within the properties to be rezoned, while providing the same connectivity and intent of the transportation plan. Given the connectivity is provided, the same facilities are provided, planning staff do recommend approval of these transportation plan amendments. We did also review them with our Transportation, Infrastructure, and Development Department, Parks and Rec, Police, and Fire. All were supportive of these changes. It was also noted that the roundabout would have a benefit of potentially calming traffic on this minor collector street. And the connectivity here is seen as important and positive. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll open public comment on Apex Transportation Plan related to the rezoning case 24ZZ10, the Ashburn PUD. Sir, and your name, please?
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Charles Walker. I'm also connected to the Ashburn PUD. Obviously, we're in support of this, and if I just want to take a minute to tell you how we got here. As I said before, the original path for this was to run completely north-south. Unfortunately, when the rights-of-way, when Bella Casa was designed and the rights-of-way were set aside for all this road interconnectivity, they did not provide any off-site construction easements. And so when we tried to look at this, it turns out that that strip of land that runs north and south is part of Bella Casa's RCA. So we didn't want to put that into jeopardy. So after a couple of dozen revisions with Russell, we came up with this amendment to the plan. So I just want to tell you how we got here and why we got here.
Well, great.
If you have any questions, just please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Sharat Paka, and address is 1945 Kings Knot Court.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. My concern is so if you see this Kings Knot Court and this rezoning, right? So we are going to have the road from the Baronial Street to that route. This is the Baronial Street. Mm-hmm. And this is the proposed rezoning, right? So I'm just trying to say, because this is a separate community and there is another community. This is another community, and if you see this community, this is, if you see a little bit upper level, this is a lower level. So this is completely alienated to this community. so I'm just trying to check if is there any possibility to close this road and make this as a dead end so that it has other roads, right? So make this road dead end, close this road and make this dead end until here. Just one. That's my I'm proposing. So that's my concern. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments relating to the Apex Transportation Plan for the Ashburn PUD?
I signed in, so I don't know, when did they call me to speak?
Well, is this relating to the transportation plan or to the Ashburn PUD plan?
There was just one Ashburn
Okay,
that I signed up for.
all right. And your name?
Linda Cafera.
Yeah, well, if you'd like to speak on the transportation plan, it's what we're talking about now.
Well, the only thing that I could say with related to the, I just want to put this here. I can put this here now, I think. Is this whole development that they want to build on 4 acres and then the 11 acres, is all the homes are shoehorned in. On 4 acres, you should have maybe a minimum of 10 to 12 houses. They should have cul-de-saced in and cul-de-saced out so they wouldn't disturb. They're butt up against Bella Casa. Across the street from me is a walkway where children on bikes and skateboards and with their parents walk to the mail kiosks, past Abruzzo, to, I can't think of it, to Hammocks Beach, and then I can't think of the name of that street that goes right to the pool, where the mail kiosks and the pool and the recreation is. And it's just, it's a procession, and it's a common procession. And there's a bus stop not 30 yards away on the corner of Abruzzo there. So now they're gonna build a through road. I know that sounds like a done deal here, and it gets me mad, but they're gonna build this through road here, which is not necessary to do to this community. And I don't see anyone but the developers and the owners here in favor of the application. So, I mean, that has to do with the transportation. I don't know exactly what their changes were. Why are you having this hearing on transportation? Is this the first hearing on transportation
Oh, sorry, this is,
for Ashburn?
yeah, this is not a question and answer, so we're just hearing public comments.
I'm asking a kind question.
Yeah, well,
Is this the first hearing they had? It's a simple question.
I would assume there's been neighborhood meetings.
Oh, but I mean at the board here. I mean at the board. That's all, sir.
This is the first public hearing. This will also, after the planning board makes a recommendation, it will go to town council for another public hearing. And this part of the application is related to changes in our transportation plan, showing where future collector streets and side paths and roundabouts and things of that nature are shown. After we close the public hearing on this item, we're going to open up the public hearing to talk about the details of the rezoning and the developer's proposal for that.
Okay. All right, then, that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments relating to the Apex Transportation Plan for the Ashburn PUD? You've already. Is this related to the transportation plan, sir?
No, sir. So this is related to the voting. So most of my, sorry.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's not against you. I just can't hear you, and I'm having trouble understanding you.
Sure, no
And I
problem.
do want to hear what you're saying too.
Right. So most of my community people are in favor of closing that road. So the mail I received is saying that so we can tell our opinion 2 days before the voting. I just want to know when will be the voting.
Well, I'm sorry, what was that? When will be the
Voting.
voting? Right, we're talking about it now, then we're gonna table this and put it, and we're gonna talk about the rezoning
Right. Okay.
after this.
Okay.
And then we'll be voting on that.
Voting will be today only, or?
Yes.
We're just making a recommendation to go to the Board of Commissioners, who will then ultimately vote on
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
the
Sure.
plans.
Thank you.
Any other public comments for rezoning to the transportation plan of the Ashburn PUD? Having no more comments, we're gonna close that. and table that. And we're gonna bring up item 3 from Joshua on the rezoning case 24ZZ10 Ashburn PUD.
Good afternoon, everybody. Joshua Killian here to present rezoning case 24CZ10, the Ashburn PUD. This rezoning is located in the western part of Apex, in that little triangle between Evans Road, Milano Avenue, and Richardson Road. This rezoning includes 2 parcels, which total about 15.3 acres in size. They are currently vacant and well vegetated, and the properties are bisected currently by Mount Zion Church Road. The current zoning of the property is rural residential. The developments to the north and east are planned unit development, also known as Parkside at Bella Casa. And the zoning to the west of this PUD is another planned unit development conditional zoning in Buckhorn Preserve. The zoning to the south is predominantly rural residential, with single-family homes on each of these 2 parcels here on the west side, and then also bordered by a continuation of that Bella Casa, Parkside of Bella Casa PUD on the east side. The applicant is proposing to rezone the parcels to planning and development conditional zoning. The 2045 land use map identifies the parcels as medium-density residential. The applicant has proposed the development of both townhomes and single-family homes, detached products within the development at 4.8 units per acre, which is consistent with the medium-density land use classification. The western parcel, as shown here, is currently has a 30-foot Town of Apex sanitary sewer easement, which follows the stream. It does have a crossing in this area here. And then going from the southwest to the northeast, there is an overhead utility line that then changes course and goes the opposite direction as it crosses Tract 1 on the west side, or the east side of Mount Zion Church Road. The project is proposed to be served by Town of Apex Services. There's both water and sewer connections from adjacent residential streets, and except for Mount Zion Church Road, which only has water connections on the north and the south, the applicant is proposing to connect the water line from the north and the south to finish out that water line for this PUD. The project will provide a minimum of 30% RCA per the UDO, and the eastern parcel here, which will include single-family homes, is planned to be mass graded, which will add an additional 5% of that land area towards the RCA calculations. The buffers proposed for this rezoning are consistent with the UDO. Just to detail them out, along the north, both on the east and west parcels, will be a 15-foot type A buffer. On the east, adjacent to Bella Casa, will be a 15-foot type A buffer, which will terminate as we get closer to the connection made at Hammocks Beach Trail here. And then to the west, we're gonna have a continuation of the 15-foot type A along Buckhorn Preserve, and then along the rural residential zone properties, there will be a 20-foot type B buffer, except for where existing streets don't allow for that planting to be made. A full list of architectural zoning conditions are provided on page 2 of the staff report. The typical conditions for both single-family and townhouses have been offered by the applicant. The first slide here shows the 2- and 3-story elevations for townhomes, and then this slide here shows the single-family, which includes the alley-loaded garages that are proposed in this PUD. The applicant held multiple neighborhood meetings for this rezoning, the first on October 11th, 2023, and then the others on May 22nd, 2024, and May 16th, 2025. Each of those reports are in your staff report. We'll have one correction from the staff report that was published, that this applicant did meet with the Environmental Advisory Board on September 19th, 2024. That date is incorrect in the staff report that was published. And the recommendations from EAB and the applicant's response are provided in the staff report. The Apex housing staff did provide a recommendation for at least 5% of the residential lots to be designated as affordable or workforce housing. That would have been a total of 4 units within this development. And at this time, the applicant has declined to offer any units as a zoning condition. A Wake County Public Schools letter of impact was received for this rezoning. It indicates that elementary, middle, and high schools within the current assignment area for this rezoning are anticipated to have insufficient capacity for future students, but transportation to schools outside of the current assignment area should be anticipated. School expansion or construction within the next 5 years may address concerns at the high school level. The Parks and Recreation Cultural Resources Advisory Commission recommends a fee in lieu at the 2025 rates for this development as well. And planning staff recommends approval of rezoning case 24 CZ10 with conditions as offered by the applicant. This rezoning is reasonable in the public interest as it will permit a variety of housing types as an infill development, utilizing existing street stubs to provide additional vehicular and pedestrian access to the existing residential developments. And we did receive one public comment before this meeting occurred, which was asking for a fence along, I'll show here, along this section of Hammocks Beach Trail. And the applicant has been working with that neighbor specifically on that request. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer, and the applicant is also here if you have any questions for the applicant.
Joshua, could we talk a little bit about the stub streets? It looks like Baronial Street, Blue Jay Point, and then of course Hammocks. Those are all abutting this property, and they've been planned to be extended. Could you talk more about the town's planning requirements around those?
Yes, so there is a provision in the UDO that within residential developments that there be stub streets provided to adjacent parcels. When Bella Casa came into development, Hammocks Beach Trail was their individual single stub onto the eastern portion. Blue Jay Point was their stub onto the western portion of the property. And then Buckhorn Preserve had to provide a stub as well to the western property boundary of this rezoning. I will say that I have visited the 3 access points, and they all do indicate that future road extension will occur through the typical red signage that we see with those red diamonds. Yeah, diamonds. Yeah, so those are all there. So
the developer is required to extend those streets as well as looks like plan for southern access points to those parcels that are not under consideration.
Yes, similarly, as they connect to the existing, they also have to provide their own stubs for future developments to also connect to help interconnectivity within the area.
Any more questions for Joshua?
Joshua, along that line of questioning, based on the comment that was made by the gentleman or from, I presume, Buckhorn, sounded as though there might be a topographic change. Obviously, there is a requirement that the connection occur. Can you speak to any possible topo change, obviously realizing that the site under consideration is going to be graded? But can you address any of those concerns, especially since you went and visited all 3 of the stubs?
Yes, from all 3 points of access, there is an increase in elevation onto this site. So the grading would have to occur to make the road feasible. Right now, from that connection itself is probably the most drastic change in elevation. But that's something that the applicant has been aware of and has worked out in their master subdivision plan so far. So.
Okay, great. And so then when the site is graded, obviously there is a requirement that after the grading, any and all stormwater is going to has to be sent to a designated spot, and that would help prevent erosion and flooding on adjacent properties. Is that correct?
Yes, and if you wanted to ask more specifically if these are going to drain directly into these SCMs that are proposed, I would rather have the applicant answer that question just in case.
Okay, No, that's wasn't needing engineering level, but you gave me exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
That we will open public hearing for the Ashburg rezoning. You again, Charles?
Thank you. Since I only have 3 minutes, I will not go over the 142-page report goes with this project.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I have Greg Elkins and Dan Baruch from Priest Craven who are with the engineering crew. If you have any specific engineering questions. To your question here, those townhomes discharge into that one. These townhomes start discharge into that, and those single-family homes will discharge into that. So they'll go directly into it. We had 3 existing streets we needed to extend. We did. We added 2 more stubs. So the road network on this thing has been the driving force on here. With the exception of the houses that back up to Hammocks Beach here, I wanted to point out to the board that single-family alley-loaded product is here, and ours is here. Townhomes are here, and our townhomes are here and here. So we've basically taken all of the surrounding relatively new development and matched it. So it's an extension of not only the streets, but of the land use and the land types. I think that may be one of the reasons why we enjoy support of the staff. If you have any specific questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
Any more questions, Mr. Charles? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments on the rezoning case 24ZZ Ashburg PUD?
Mr. Chair, I've got a question for Shannon, if that's okay.
Sure.
Regarding your presentation and some of the questions that we got. Based on what you've provided to us and then the follow-up questions that came, can you help maybe clear up something for me, and hopefully even on behalf of some of the comments? The realignment of the minor collector designation is not applying a new minor collector designation along Mount Zion and Hammocks Beach. Is that correct? This is simply realigning what was going to come in to Mount Zion at an angle, which is potentially a dangerous intersection type situation, and removing that pie shape and creating a T intersection. But the designation of being minor collector and how many cars that can carry, that's not actually being added. It's just being moved to the proposed road location. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. So just looking at the layout, the minor collector is already shown on the plan.
Time's up, Shannon.
Okay, I'll sit down. It's already shown on the plan following this alignment. And so we're just shifting that to follow this alignment, not changing the designation.
Okay. And can you provide just a couple sentence summary of the difference between a collector street, what a collector street does versus a local road that might be the one you have out in front of your driveway?
Mm-hmm. Yep, so the minor collector street is the lowest functional class as far as collector streets go. So it would be residential street, minor collector, major collector, and then you're getting into your thoroughfares. So minor collector streets look very much like a typical residential street. They're slightly wider. We require pedestrian facilities on both sides of minor collector streets, which within a PUD, they're required on both sides of all streets, but that's not the same everywhere. So they're intended to provide connections to major collector streets, which Milano is. So they serve a slightly higher volume of traffic, providing connectivity, often from multiple neighborhoods to a higher functional class road.
Something I had always heard that was just some kind of a funny little ism was a collector's called that for that very reason. It collects the vehicles off of the local roads and then takes them to the larger roads.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep, and our UDO does require the extension of stub streets, so that is why that is reflected in the layout. So streets like Baronial, that's required to be extended per our Unified Development Ordinance, and we apply that everywhere. And it's important for lots of reasons: faster access by emergency services, school bus routes, shorter walks, more access points for neighborhoods to get in and out, and just taking pressure off of individual roads and making sure that we have a complete network.
Great, thank you. And the last question for you, in terms of the placement of the roundabout, was the genesis of the roundabout due to traffic volumes or due to speed along Mount Zion?
So the roundabout was really recommended because the intent was for the minor collector to be continuous following Hammock's Beach Trail.
Right.
And with the introduction of the intersection, instead of having potentially a stop controlled and making a right turn onto a minor collector, the roundabout was introduced. It was also a recommendation from our Transportation, Infrastructure, and Development Department, so the traffic engineers looking at how this would function.
Okay, great. Wonderful, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Shannon. Let's see, we have signed up Greg to speak on this.
I'm not going to speak. I was just here in case.
Just in case. That's
Same goes for Dan.
Same with Dan. So Kelly Richardson. Is there Kelly? Okay, just to be on record. All right. Thank you, sir. And Linda? Would you like to speak? Thank you.
Little sign up. Okay, it's basically, everyone's been very nice. The town planning department, the builders, been very nice. Mr. Walker too. But I just don't think they're here to ruin an area unbeknownst to them and then move on to the next. That's what developers do, unfortunately. Over here, I told you we have a bus stop 30. I don't know the name of that street. I'm sorry. I'm getting old. It's Hammock's Beach. It goes across Abruzzo, a short 6-house block. Then it goes across the street to Hammock's Beach, which is another about 6-house block, and then down that main road to the, and it's a procession of children, of parents, and everything. I'm just saying, I'm not stopping them from building. I'm just saying they should build less houses and a little more green buffer. That will produce less traffic, less depletion to the environment, less everything. We had, and I don't know how to operate this. This doesn't work. How do you move?
Just use the mouse and it will move the arrow
yes.
on the
Okay,
screen.
I've never done this. Okay. Oops. All right. All right, here.
You got it.
Okay. So over here is where Hammock's Beach is going to open up. But I'm just saying, they didn't really need, I know they're gonna do it. I know they're gonna do it, and I'm not here to object to that. But I'm just saying, they could have, this is a big road. Right over here where the circle is where the traffic was backed up with parents when they had that delayed school opening, all the way to both the junior high school and the high school, all the way to where that traffic circle is situated. It is getting ridiculous with the traffic. I'm not even going to go to that other place that you're talking about on New Hill Road. over there and all the development over there. But this is so concentrated here and so shoehorned. There's gotta be room to give us some relief. There's too many houses on that little 4-acre triangle. They could make less houses and you'd still make a killing. You'd still make a killing, you'd make your money, and everyone will be happy. That's all I'm saying at this point. I looked at this, it seems like they have more green buffers on the, bordering the preserve, the Buckhorn Preserve, than we do. We just have that little strip that you said was 15 feet, that green strip on the north and the east, and the north and east, 15. Look at what you're giving them. We need more buffer, less houses, less traffic. I'd hate for one of those kids or parents or people in that daily procession to get hit. It's really not, it wasn't looked at. They don't live here. They don't live here. I think the owners are in Sanford, and I don't know where they are. But that's all I came. I'm just a resident. That's all I am.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you. Want my sign. Thank you.
Is there a Brandon here to speak as well?
How are you guys doing? My name is Brandon Poitras, 2705 Richardson Road. I am the 3-acre tract that is exactly south of this project, all along here. Literally to this, from this corner to this corner. Not necessarily opposed to the development, but questions that I asked at the only community meeting that I was informed about. This plan is a little bit different than that last one, especially when it comes to what I do not recall this stub street here to my property being displayed at the community meeting. And my questions, obviously, my home sits roughly in this area right here. That's the back of my home running to that street. So my concerns around this development are the continuing of the retaining wall. How high will it be? The engineers told me they weren't sure at the time of the community meeting. I understand that. You got a lot of work to do to figure that out. And obviously I still have small children at home, so I'm worried about if that wall is of substantial height, that it has a fence at the top. And I'm not exactly sure I understand, from Josh, your comments, I'm not exactly sure what the requirements are going to be along that road, because the road is kind of in the way, right? The road's there. I realize there's not an actual type A or type B buffer, but obviously I'm keenly interested in understanding my separation from that busy street from a safety standpoint. And also that stub, because that stub's on the same side of the stream that I live on. And I've talked to the town planners prior, almost 2 years ago, about dividing my lot into 2 separate sites, and was told they weren't really that interested in it. So I'm concerned about that stub, but I'm not necessarily opposed to the development. I just, and the developers know this from the community meeting, and nothing that needs to stop anything here. But my kids have made tons and tons and tons of friends with the folks in Buckhorn, so much so that we put in we are also higher in elevation. We put a mulch trail in that goes down to the end of Baronial Street. Nothing that I think the developer has to necessarily worry about, but obviously I mentioned in the community meeting, my kids are going to be devastated if they can't have a way to go play with their friends if there's now a full retaining wall with no other way to access safely that street. Again, part of life is that's part of life. But my concerns really lie around the elevations as they get identified and making sure that my property value doesn't get adversely affected. My home is approximately 11,000 square feet and it sits on 3.5 acres. So obviously I got to make sure that I'm trying to protect my investment by not having a dangerous situation going right out the backside of my property. Any questions for me? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Okay, that is all we have signed up for public comment. So I'd like to close public comment and bring it to the board for discussion.
Was there a reason there's no buffer on that south side? Sorry if I missed that.
Along the road?
along the road, yeah.
Yeah, there's really
An alignment issue, it looks like.
Yeah, it's really the alignment. There's not much space to plant and to set a buffer. If one were to be required, they wouldn't be able to plant almost anything there. The developer will have to put a retaining wall on their side of the property line, just because of how the grades are and just to get that road in. But as Shannon mentioned earlier, the connection is required by the UDO, and unfortunately, there's just not any room for us to require them to put a buffer in that area.
Is there any known height of the retaining wall as it relates to a fence and tying that grid back in, what that may look like?
Yeah, I don't have that height off the top of my head. The engineer's telling me it's 4 or 5 feet. 4 to 5? It's between 4 and 5 feet in that area.
Has a developer thought about or maybe agreed on some type of, is there going to be a required fence for the 4 to 5 feet for the height?
I am sure the transportation department is going to require some kind of restraint at the top of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
We can sure work on those details. The stub that's right here, that's shown right here, that is the first opportunity to make a stub to Brandon's acreage, because the retaining wall stops about here, so that's where it hits natural grade. So that's how that street stub landed right there. And we've spoken a couple of times at the public hearing, and between the retaining walls and the sidewalks on both sides, where his kids can still terrorize Buckhorn.
Well, that's a requirement. I mean.
Yeah, so also I'll just say similarly, that's the situation at Hammocks Beach as well. Had that connection been able to be made here, there would have been no buffer basically between the RCA of Parkside of Bella Casa. So by them moving this here, there's at least that 15-foot here. And then, as stated earlier, we had that request from the public to add some type of a separation against that as well. So just as it's a site constraints and making those required connections.
I really have a confession. I love a roundabout.
Who doesn't? Here we are.
A lot of people. You'd be surprised. I do love a roundabout. I like that. That's a nice traffic calming measure and a way to connect things because we do see an increase in traffic in this area, but that's a good way to keep traffic flowing without slowing it down and backing it up too much. And to Shannon's point, all those points of interconnectivity, future plans for interconnectivity, I think are looking forward to the future and Apex in 20, 30 years as opposed to what's here now. So, and the neighboring developments did that as well when they built out. So. I also like that the plans, single family townhome are attempting to match the adjacent densities.
Any other questions for Joshua or the developer? Right, back to the board. I would like to close public hearing, and we will bring it to the board for discussion. Any questions? Comments from the board?
Well, I'll start with a couple of comments. One, I also agree that I think that from a unit planning perspective, I applaud the context or the fact that they are applying the single family detached units in proximity to other detached units, and then the townhome product adjacent to other townhome product. I think that was just smart planning. In terms of, now I understand Miss Linda had several concerns, but in terms of the concerns related to the roadway realignment, I will suggest to you that the that not allowing the road, Mount Zion, to connect into Hammocks Beach in a straight line is much preferred in terms of safety and slowing vehicles down. And then especially with the addition of the roundabout. I cycle along Richardson. That's part of my route, and I will say that if you look at the map, it's interesting because the way that Hammocks Beach and Mount Zion line up, it's almost identical just south with Mount Zion and Richardson. And I've personally witnessed vehicles many times flying off of Richardson onto Mount Zion. And then opposite to that, it always appears as though vehicles have a hard time seeing me when they're trying to go southbound from Mount Zion onto Richardson. So I think realigning the roadway with the addition of the roundabout is a much preferred situation. I also suggest to you that that as staff has already noted, this is consistent with our policy, with the long range plan. This request, you can also tell that the development or the proposed site, both sites, are completely surrounded by other similar residential. So we have a little bit of a donut situation here, and we're filling in the donut. It was, I realize that nothing is ever a foregone conclusion, but in a situation like this, one can safely assume that depending on what is proposed, it is anticipated by the local government that area would fill out in a way that is similar to the surrounding development patterns. So I think that the project as or the request as proposed is simply continuing those expectations. I think what I continue to struggle with is that connection to Buckhorn, and I realize that it is a requirement of the UDO, and of course I'm one who will fight for continuing connections all day long. But we've heard a couple of different comments and comment from staff as it relates to the change in elevation, understanding that will be engineered, that the site will be balanced. But I just offer that as something that I just continue to struggle with a little bit. There is the connection to Buckhorn. Now we don't want to have cul-de-sacs throughout all of our blocks, but just thinking through that right now. Otherwise, I think the plan, the request as proposed is sound and reasonable. And I think that the realignment of Mount Zion with Hammocks Beach is a much better situation.
Any other comments?
I think just to comment a little bit on the elevation change, I think, yeah, it is a concern, but we do have a plan for that. We have two side paths on both sides.
Yeah.
So as we talk about foot traffic and the concerns there, I mean, I think that's the best way we would address something like that. And just as far as, support of the project, I mean, it's meeting the land use classifications, and it's trying to match up with its, surrounding subdivisions.
And it sounds like that Dan and the engineers have been working with Brendan, or at least I hope so, or at least they're in communication, and they could they could come to a conclusion. I'm glad that the wall is only 4 or 5 feet, because I was in anticipation that we might be looking at something much higher. But I would hope that the engineers and Brendan would at least continue to, if this were to move forward, to continue their conversation to make it work for everybody. Any other discussion?
In terms of motions and a vote, will there need to be, Yes, that's what I thought.
Two separate.
Two separate, one for Shannon's item and then one for Joshua's item. Understood. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Without question, I will move approval of the recommendation for the realignment of the minor collector and the addition of the roundabout as proposed by Ms. Cox.
I will second that motion.
Have a second? All that agree, say aye.
Aye.
All that oppose? Unanimous. That was for the rezone, that was for the Apex Transportation Plan for the Ashburn PUD. So that will bring back to the board discussion on the Ashburn PUD itself.
Just curious, is are the proposed connections, thank you, Joshua, are the proposed connections to the south, directly to the south, to, and forgive me, the gentleman in the gray shirt, I forgot his name. Is that connection and the one to the southeast, are those required per UDO or were those voluntary?
Those are required. There's 2 individual parcels, and there's typically 1 required per parcel, at least, at minimum.
Ah, 1 per parcel, okay. So does the UDO have a kind of a nodes and links type of calculation in terms of
No.
amount of, okay. Do you know where I was going with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just essentially, if you have a vacant tract of land, now I'm just curious, let's say it was small, let's say it was 1 acre.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to have a connection even to a 1 acre site?
Typically, yes.
Okay, so if it's vacant, you're connecting.
If there's land there that can be developed at a higher use, then typically, yes, we would require that connection. Especially if it's, as you see here, the land use classification, it's medium density residential, so we are anticipating that there's going to be more residential development, so we just are preparing those residential streets to make that connection with other residential, so that way you're not cul-de-sacking and having too many endpoints for emergency services.
Right.
So these are typically done as zoning conditions if it's not landlocked. So I think technically these are not landlocked. So it's done as part of the zoning. So if you had a 1 acre site, even if it were landlocked, if it didn't look like there was opportunity for redevelopment, and especially like if the neighbor said, I only have 1 acre, but these obviously have some redevelopment potential in the future, so we would just want the stub streets there.
Yeah. Understood. Thank you so much for that, Dave.
Medium density residential, how many units per acre?
It's typically between 4 and 7 units per acre.
Okay. And this proposal is
4.8.
4.8. Okay.
So we're on the low end.
On the low end, not maxing out density.
Which also, just as a point of reference, this green area is a lower classification, so they are trying their best to transition from that lower classification into medium density here with the townhome units. And as you can see here, there's lots of preservation being held there, so it's kind of trying to balance out.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve rezoning case number 24CZ10 Ashburn PUD as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Stephen will second.
We have a second.
Oh, comments?
Thank you. I just wanted to be able to comment before the vote. So I will vote in favor. I do support this, and I realize, and I'm told often, Preston, don't get too much into the weeds with the site design right now. That's not what we're supposed to be doing, and I get that. And so I will hush, and I am in support of this. I would just, for the record, encourage and request really heightened coordination and collaboration between the gentleman to the south and the developer and the town, and especially with those along Buckhorn who are going to see a new street really do your best to collaborate and work closely with all those folks to minimize the impact on them.
Okay,
That's it.
great. All right, we have a motion and a second. So all that approve?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All that oppose? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank
You
you.
guys will just stay right where you are.
I'll keep it moving.
And Joshua,
Yes.
something that I just have always wanted or like to do in the past is when we have folks showing up like this speaking, can you go ahead and tell them when is town council?
Yes, so for those who are in attendance, the town council meeting for both items heard today, all items heard today, will be on August the 12th at 6:00 p.m. in council chambers.
So there's
Right here.
another opportunity for folks to speak.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
6:00.
Okay, we will move forward with item 4, which is rezoning case 25CZ02, Jordan Lutheran Church.
All righty. Here again to present rezoning case 25CZ02, Jordan Lutheran Church. This rezoning is located just south of Beaver Creek Commons Development and east of 540. As you can see here in this aerial, it's currently about 6.22 acres. And this aerial is from October 2024. I'm going to go ahead and show you a more updated aerial from February. There's been a couple of site changes in relation to the Chapel Ridge North Apartments development. As you can see, there was a pond here that has since been drained. And if you've driven on Beaver Creek Commons Drive recently, you'll notice that there has been a street connection here. So Chapel Ridge Road has been extended along the boundary of this parcel. I just want to give you a little bit of that context there. And also how we got here. The Jordan Lutheran Church originally received a minor site plan approval in October 2019. Construction drawings were approved in March of 2022, but in August of 2021, the UDO was amendment to change the use church or place of worship to a special use permit in the rural residential zoning district. So the applicant had the option to either apply for a special use permit or do the rezoning to have the use by right, and they have chosen the rezoning route. The current zoning, as stated, is rural residential. The land to the south and east are planned unit development conditional zoning. And then to the north is planning development conditional use. And then to the west across Beaver Creek Commons Drive is planned commercial conditional use. The proposed zoning is planned commercial conditional zoning, and for the primary intent of building a church on the property. Additional uses have been provided to ensure that there's feasibility for other uses to locate on the site if needed as well. The applicant held neighborhood meetings for this parcel on December 16th, 2024 and June 23rd, 2025. The rezoning was reviewed by the EAB on February 27th, 2025, and those suggesting conditions and applicant responses are in your staff report. Wake County Public Schools letter of impact was not received for this rezoning as there is no proposed increase in residential density. But as you can see here, the 2045 land use map currently identifies this parcel as medium density residential, and the planned commercial zoning district is not consistent with that land use classification. So if this rezoning is approved, the land use map will automatically be amended to commercial services. And this is consistent with the high density and commercial designation to the north and to the west of this parcel. Planning staff recommends approval of rezoning case 25CZ02 with conditions as offered by the applicant. We find that it is reasonable and in the public interest as the zoning district and conditions will restrict vehicular access to Beaver Creek Commons Drive and require the dedication of a 30-foot public sewer easement to facilitate construction of public infrastructure as described in the Apex Sewer Master Plan. If there's any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer. And the applicant is here and has a presentation if you are willing to receive it.
questions?
So Chapel Ridge Road now goes up around north and is right next to that back entrance behind the shops at Beaver Creek
Correct, yep.
and feeds out there.
It feeds out there, and that's why we have asked, that's why the applicant is restricting their access to Chapel Ridge North, or Chapel Ridge Road along this frontage on the Chapel Ridge North Apartments frontage, so they kind of have that front face together, and it leaves that vegetation on Beaver Creek Commons Drive to the best of their ability.
Joshua, on the heels of her question, just so that I heard it right, connection will only be to the north extension, or will they also be able to connect down into the cul-de-sac?
So this cul-de-sac will be transitioning into a right-hand turn to continue, and then a left-hand turn to continue out. And they are only restricting their access to not be here. I think the applicant will address that there's been some changes to the grading here that would make a connection there practically infeasible. So their connection would be on that eastern side of the property.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Was that going to stay at the type of road it is now, just a 2-lane road in and out all the way from Olive Chapel up and around?
Yes, it's just your regular residential street.
Okay.
I will have other questions for Joshua. I just wanted to hear as we get through the public hearing first.
Sure.
If I can real quick, just clarify that Chapel Ridge Road is identified on our transportation plan as a minor collector street.
Helpful, thank you.
Okay, so
Do I
we'll
just click to advance?
okay, open up public comment.
Good evening. I am Mike Merker. I'm the pastor at Jordan Lutheran Church. With me is also Trenton Stewart from Arcadia Consulting Engineers. So if you have questions of him, and Bada Van Hanrath as well from our leadership board. Just here to present to you some details and how we as a church got to where we were. So just wanted to share with you, congregation purchased the property in 2000, and congregation starts in 2009, buys the property in 2019, and it just became clear with the neighbors coming in, 370 apartments, it seemed appropriate to just get connections and roads in a better place. So we did delay and pause that project to help get alignments, but just a couple things to share with you, kind of just to bring you up to date. We weren't pausing when we went. So neat things that happened in Apex you may not be aware of. We had 5 different states come in to do disaster response training on the site. While we were waiting, we had some fun and helped prep people for floods and different pieces along the way. We did food trailer assistance to the homeless. So we had food sites helping to prep people and get things that they need to do. Shared that. We did flood mitigation work. So teaching people how do you muck out a house. We had a house that existed on the site, so train people, and figured if we can't build on it yet, we should teach people and train. I share this to let you know our goal is to live with people here. We just want to do life with the town, and while we were waiting, we thought, what could we do while we waited with a facility? We even had the fire department come in. So I discovered there's a lot of paperwork to get the fire department to come on your site, and insurance companies don't like that. But we did it. We gave the fire department 2 months to be able to go there. They smoked the house and did things and had a blast as I went out and met several other people. I had one person who said, I'm the head of a fire truck. I have never been able to do this training on an actual roof. I am trained in the head of a fire truck, and I've only done it 4 feet off the ground. This is the first time I've been able to do it on a roof. Thank you. We just want to work with the town, and actually I had a lot of fun out there with the fire department on that day. Well, one of many days they were out there sharing with it. Joshua did mention the Chapel Ridge North extension, an interesting piece that happened there. There were just some challenges with the adjoining development, and our goal was just to work with them. So we just came to meet the challenge, offered a further extension of a temporary construction easement. It graded out the property into our site, and then the town, if this is approved as it goes to council, will eventually receive RCA, additional RCA on the northern portion of our property, which will handle this regrading, just to address an issue, again, to make connectivity and things for the town better along the way. Joshua mentioned as well of the conversations that have been going on for quite a while about a sewer easement. The previous plan had this in the And the slope and drainage easement that's along Beaver Creek Commons Drive, it will now be at the toe of the slope, which is better for what the town wanted. And due to that, there were some conditions that were beneficial to all parties to help make that possible as our site then moved us further east and into the south. So just tough conversations that ended up better. So I will admit, talking actually is beneficial and grateful for it. So this is just an outline of where that easement is that you see, the sewer easement that goes from the north down to the south, and then there's some impacts on the buffer. And if you have specifics, we'll be glad to address them. But just wanted to thank you. We're just here to get these accommodations, as Joshua mentioned. Things changed in August of 2021, and we were encouraged, speaking to a few council members and others, they said, just go get it by right. Just tell them what you want to do. It'd be better for the long-term use of the congregation not to have it by special use, but have it by right. And that's why we did that. So we're eager to talk with you and answer any questions that you have. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
In terms of traffic, congregation population, what are you thinking it's going to add? Or is it mostly a Sunday morning thing where you're thinking that traffic's picking up?
It'd be a Sunday morning thing. So just as the years have passed, we had met at Beaver Creek Cinemas before it closed and have met there since 2009. So I mean, someone said earlier, it didn't seem to bother things back then the theater closed. I get that, but it's a few hundred people. So from the grand scheme of things, it's largely Sunday mornings. Well, I would love the whole town to be present on Sunday mornings. They are not, but if that addresses your question.
I was just thinking of the apartments, the church, the community that's in the front, just all of that traffic coming in.
Yeah, so the one, just anticipating one, and it was mentioned in the previous case that's there, the apartments that are coming in, there are 2 stub outs that'll be on the eastern connection that come in. So one of the things beneficial to the congregation, instead of 1 on that western side, there are 2, and those stub outs were something that just made it possible where it's better for everyone. The congregation doesn't want to have to go out on Beaver Creek Commons. It'll be better that everything just kind of simplifies. So sometimes waiting is a good thing.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Now I will close public comments. Bring it back to the board for discussion.
Joshua, the minor site plan that was approved, I understand we don't have a site plan here today, but yet they're asking to change their entitlement and to increase the ability to do things on this property. And one of those, for example, here I've got the uses pulled up that are proposed. And so I am curious, can you speak to how much more intensive this requested rezoning is than what was, and allow me to maybe preface by saying I realize that any decision we make today is not predicated on how that minor site plan was approved. I want to just understand really kind of from a compare and contrast what was entitled under that minor site plan versus what are they seeking here today?
Honestly, it's roughly the same. They are looking to only build the sanctuary at this time. They do that. If they would like to speak to it, they might have plans to expand at some point on the site, but generally it's the same thing of just having the use of the church. The other uses are there mainly as secondary uses. If they were to, for instance, have a daycare facility on site, that's could be a accessory use by definition of the UDO. But if they had a third party running it, things like that, then it would be a classification that would be kind of separate. So they just want to make sure that if they had the ability to do other uses on the site, that they were entitled to those as well. Outside of rural residential, they would have had some of these, but not necessarily all in terms of the way that it's more commercialized in these uses here.
Okay. I guess looking at a couple of the uses, understanding that communication towers is that's oftentimes a cash opportunity for anyone. But outside of that, the health fitness center or spa, I want to avoid going into their business. But from a staff perspective, maybe I'll frame it that way. From a staff perspective, did you all have any, and maybe I should ask, was this list of 20 proposed by the applicant and then kind of blessed by staff before we get here today? Was there conversation about what a health fitness center or spa would look like in proximity to other residential? And then the other is, I'm curious about, can you speak to the use assembly hall? Now, obviously, from a building code perspective, this will be assembly because it's a church. But we've already got the use, a zoning use, church listed there. Can you speak to assembly hall and how the zoning ordinance addresses assembly halls? And are there square footage maximums? Are there, I mean, are we looking at the opportunity to do, like an auditorium, so to speak, that could eventually be a problem land use for folks down the road? I don't know. Obviously, that's not going to be the case for Sunday church or Wednesday night, but assemblies can be different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to speak to the health, fitness, or spa, or speak to all of the uses, all these uses were proposed by the applicant. Staff did have some discussion as to which ones we felt would be necessary to have as an independent use versus the ones that could be accessory. The one that I used, daycare facility, that was one of the ones where we were like, this could be an accessory use. You don't need to list it, but the applicant felt that it was in their best interest to go ahead and have that use by right. As far as the assembly hall for profit and nonprofit, that just allows them to use the space of the sanctuary in that capacity. Should there be some type of concert that might want to come through, that kind of thing, for profit, they would then be able to use it rather than it being specifically for the church use, right? So like, it's just a nuance of, if they decided to build somewhere else, an actual sanctuary, that they could still use this site as within these uses to kind of still generate revenue for the church and things like that.
Renting it out for a wedding, would that be considered an assembly hall use?
We typically don't.
Okay.
But if they were to use that basically as like the only use, then we would get into that conversation of, okay, you're not using it as a place of worship primarily anymore, but it's now transitioned into a place where you're having these weddings and you've now built a sanctuary on a different site and you're using that as your actual church place of worship. It's kind of that nuance there.
Or if they get to an expansion point where they do build a new hall,
right,
that is used just for those assembly uses.
Correct. And the same thing with the health, fitness, or spa. If they did the sanctuary building as its one, and then had an extension and built a gym, for instance, a basketball court type gym, they could then still have that as its independent use on the site without having to go through another rezoning to say, yeah, it's more than 25% of the building square footage, all that kind of stuff that goes with accessory uses in the UDO.
And just to add to what Joshua stated early on, we suggested that they include some other uses besides church in the event that something happens and the church doesn't build or they sell in the future, then they don't have to worry about going through a rezoning process to sell it to someone else. It's already ready for these other uses to either move into the building that they build or to just build on the site should something happen. So it's a little bit like an insurance policy.
And then I did want to address one thing that might be a concern with the daycare facility is that for daycare specifically, if we did receive a minor site plan to build a daycare facility on the site, they would be required to have a neighborhood meeting as well. And then depending on what their proposal is, TID, Traffic and Infrastructure Development, might request a TIA just to scope what that traffic impact would be. So with that use in particular, knowing that it could be a heavy traffic generator, if it were to stand alone on this site, there would be other things that staff could ask of the applicant before they move forward with that proposal.
Okay. Can you speak to, on the long-range plan, on the policy, the 2045? It's interesting because, and the map I'm looking at is the one that's embedded in your staff report, which that one's fine right there. It's interesting because this site, this 6-acre tract, is medium, and then, but yet the others that fan off are medium high. Did those change as part of other rezonings, just like this request?
Yes, so everything that's shown as the high-density residential here, that's all a part of the Chapel Ridge North Apartments rezoning. I will say that even this parcel here that abuts Clark Farm Road has special conditions related to it regarding the single-family home that is there and how that is able to redevelop since the apartment complex is not really using that site. So that was all a part of an amendment with that rezoning. And then just off of this, you can't really, well, I guess it's right here. You have that townhome community that's being built here, Brookside. So it's got medium density going into that higher classification before you get to that commercial area.
I believe that one's 55 plus. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions, Joshua? Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you.
Hang on one second, Joshua. I'm sorry. I had another question, and I'm having a hard time remembering where it was in my review of your report. So we've addressed the uses, and we've addressed the connection. I had another. Forgive me. Well, I don't want to hold us up. I understand the need for the rezoning based on the loss of entitlement with the expiration of the minor site plan, and I understand the logic behind, go ahead and shoot for the by right. I think one thing that, and again, kind of like with the last item, I'm kind of thinking out loud here for a minute for the rest of the board. That minor site plan, while we're not privy to that, I understand, had a specific proposal. And I assume that specific proposal was for the sanctuary, for the church itself. And at that time, now, there's no hearings involved with that. That was a minor approval. So it was a by right approval at the time under rural, correct?
Yes.
And so both the policy of being residential, the zoning being rural, the community expectation would be, oh, okay, there's going to be a church located here. Well, that expires, and now the church says, well, okay, let's use this as an opportunity to get essentially reapproval of that plan, but let's also build in some what ifs. And I understand that. I get that. I respect that. I think the concern I've got is that if the sanctuary doesn't play out, and I realize that these individuals could sit here today and swear to us up and down. Well, there'd probably be no swearing, but could promise to us all day long that it would be the church and it would be the church only. But if it doesn't, and we get are there caps on assembly hall square footages?
No,
other than just how much parking you could.
It's based on the parking.
So you could get a pretty sizable assembly hall, kind of a concert hall right here. And I guess that's a concern I've got. Or a health spa on a piece of property that is requested for a commercial rezoning, is requesting to convert the land use policy to commercial. But that's not the understanding, that's not the expectation that the community had on that 6-acre tract before town council acts on this. So I have no problem with the rezoning as proposed, with the other conditions, with the reasoning behind it. I'm very pleased with the fact that the road has gone on through and connects into Beaver Creek. But we lost our entitlement under that site plan, which we would have been able to pull building permits and do engineering off of. Now, let's go ahead and add a couple of other uses in there. So that's the thing I'm struggling with, are the other uses that could potentially be invasive to the surrounding residents.
I will say that, correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, the assembly hall use is allowed also in rural residential. So if that's a concern, that use would still be allowed, even had the previous minor site plan gone through with construction.
No, that's very helpful.
So just as a point of reference.
That entitlement was already baked in.
Yeah, so there were baked in entitlements under rural residential.
Right.
So, and some of, there's very few of those commercial uses, but I believe Assembly Hall, yeah, I'm at a second, just to double check.
Now, no, that's critical information. Would that also apply to a health spa? I doubt it, but let's see if it does.
So I just want to say, we looked at the use as if the church just was not even there. Would we want these uses? Yes, they're all uses we would want, and in a way, you might even prefer it. There's tax base associated with the other uses.
Sure, and I respect that desire. I think that my concern, where I'm coming from, is what is the current policy on the site? It's proximity to other residential, and the potential for, I mean, we've got a large shopping and commercial area further east down Beaver Creek. So is the desire for that to continue to creep southwest? It doesn't appear as though that's the desire, and that this is kind of a one-off request to convert the policy.
So, Mr. Mitchell, if I may give a little more history. One, Joshua was correct. Assembly Hall, for-profit and not-for-profit, are both allowed with a special use permit similar to how churches are allowed in the current zoning district. So they're in a, with the, church and assembly halls are both allowed under the current zoning, but only with the special use permit. So some history with the land use in this area. A few years ago, we looked at the land use map comprehensively to target areas where there needed to be more residential density. For instance, the area where Beaver Creek Beaver Creek Commons is now used to be all red commercial on our land use map, and we added the orange stripe for high density residential in the event that there might be some redevelopment opportunity in the shopping center, that's where apartments could go. And we were looking at our transit map as part of that focus. So looking along where we had transit or where there would be future transit, where to increase density to support that. So we had all of this area along Chapel Ridge Road was part of those amendments. And there was a lot of discontent in the area and disagreement about the appropriate land use map classification for the whole area. And so we just didn't change it and decided that the appropriate time to change the land use map would be as new development was coming in. And so we just decided to say, we'll deal with it when it comes in for rezoning, instead of handling it comprehensively. So there was a little more history. And so it's not real, it looks like a piecemeal, and I can understand your concern there, but there's just more history to that.
Yeah, no, well, and that and the fact that the Assembly Hall is already baked in is tremendously helpful. Thank you so much. Yeah, very, very helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions for Joshua? Thank you.
Thank you.
And do we have any public comment on rezoning case 25CZ02 Jordan Lutheran Church? I have 3 people signed up. Michael, which I believe we've heard from. And
they were all just here representing as well. So they,
oh, excellent.
It's the engineer and then another member of the church.
Okay, so we'll close public comment. Bring it back to the board for discussion. I believe the health and fitness, in my opinion, was maybe more so geared for, and this was just my perception, is that maybe it was geared more for a room in the church. But I see where your concern may be, is it could become a full Gold's Gym, Planet Fitness.
The whole site, 6 acres.
It could be, yes.
It'd be a huge facility.
So
well, because I so much appreciate Joshua's explanation regarding their conversation with them on what you might be able to do as an accessory versus primary.
Sure.
And I get it. Again, I understand the why, but why would you drop these as opportunities for primary uses if something goes awry? But I do think some of them would be more suited or better suited as accessory uses. And really, maybe I should be careful with how I say that, not plural. Just that the health fitness center or spa might be better suited as just an accessory use as opposed to a potential 6-acre. But you know, honestly, if the assembly hall is already permitted, subject to the issuance of an SUP. Now that's an important distinction. Subject to, so it is permitted, but it still requires this discretionary board approval. So someone doesn't get to walk in and get a permit for an assembly hall. They still have to go through this other process. But it is already baked into the rural, so that is very helpful. And I guess out of the 20, to have a concern for that one use, you know, is marginal. So, and we didn't have the kind of opposition that I thought we were going to have. Now, what's helpful is that Amanda's expressed that some of that opposition maybe has already flushed itself out over the years.
Oh, yes.
And they have seen things change. And so we know how that works. And so maybe that's why too.
Yes, there was a lot of discussion over this neighborhood.
Yeah,
to say the least. Yeah.
To staff's point, any of these more commercial uses, I think, are compatible with the area. I mean, you have a site that backs up to a TJ Maxx, so and you have I believe that movie theater is being converted to a fitness center. Yes, I'm getting nods. So if that were the case, I'd like the future proofing of land to not per se landlock yourself into one singular use, but to have those opportunities. If you did want to run a recreation center for youth, that's there. You obviously present very community oriented, but regardless of that, it's compatible with higher density, growing density residential nearby, as well as a pretty major commercial center next door.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all on that. I think the where I have some concern, and Joshua is savvy, so I noted that one of his closing comments was, Preston, there is high density that they're driving by. When they go from Olive Chapel northbound, they're still driving by high density, and I get that. But there's the potential too, and again, one of the things that helped mitigate my concerns was the fact that that the Chapel Ridge extension is going up and connecting into Beaver Creek. I would be somewhat adamant about any concerns and possibly even a negative recommendation if there was no connection to Beaver Creek. If there was no connection to Beaver Creek, I think this would be a completely different situation. But we've got the connection up to Beaver Creek. Yes, we do have new high density on the south end, and yes, we've got other residential going in there. I think if you look at the large commercial developments that are along Beaver Creek Commons Drive as they run up and run parallel to 64, they don't connect down into the residential. So you can't directly exit those commercial developments and drive south into the residential. I mean, unless you go out onto the collector roadways. So I will hush now. I've had my concerns addressed, but I think I've also been able to at least state on record that it is tough in these areas. And I think this is what Amanda was alluding to, is that when you've got initial opposition and then things begin to change and grow, there's a softening and there's an acceptance. But just because there's a softening or an acceptance doesn't mean that we as a planning body simply just accept things happening without some analysis. That's all.
I'm with you on the transportation planning. That lent a lot more comfort to the plan, because if Chapel Ridge Road was the really primary access point, that would be concerning. And, you know, to speak of the growth, I mean, who remembers when Beaver Creek Commons did not have a light at Kelly Road? So changing those things and making sure connections and safety are in mind are very helpful.
On that note, since I'm the one who was kind of stirring this up, I will recommend approval as offered or proposed. And are there two votes? Is there a vote on the rezoning and then a vote on the plan amendment? So it's all baked into one motion.
It's a state law change so that the land use map is automatically updated when the rezoning is approved.
Thank you, ma'am. So I would recommend approval as proposed, including the plan amendment, with the uses as proposed.
I'll second.
We have a second? All right. All that approve?
Aye.
Aye. All that oppose? Motion carried. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you.
You're not gonna stick around for the next one, Joshua?
Mr. Chair, forgive me, but is there any way we can take a 2-minute recess? Or wait a minute, how many more? We just have one. All right, never mind. I can hang in there.
Hey, Bruce.
All right, this will be very quick. Don't worry.
Thank you.
47 pages to review.
Yeah.
No,
We're gonna go over the entire UDO. No, we won't. So we're presenting a couple possible UDO amendments and hoping to get your recommendation and discussion on them. The first one today is we're looking to amend section 8.3.4.e on location and driveway standards to the UDO. I did want to highlight that the staff report that you received, there was a slight change between then and now. After talking with our wonderful long-range transportation team, planning department, we realized that we should alter the wording. So here on the screen, we've included the word ultimate as part of, so ultimate right-of-way will now be where we're measuring from, and that's been the change that we've added here to ensure that as we move forward, you see them on all the plans and the rezonings coming in, that we're doing lots of improvements to our roads and they're getting wider and bigger. We want to make sure that everything is uniformed and that we're still able to provide pedestrian transportation and that we don't have cars encroaching into those areas. So just to go over what the wording is here. The length driveway serving all residential properties shall have a minimum of 20 feet, which is the current standard, measured from the ultimate right-of-way or from the back of sidewalk if the sidewalk is located on private property. We've struck out the back of the sidewalk where no sidewalk exists from the back of the curb. That was the previous standard that was there. So that's the first amendment presented to you today. The second one is just kind of cleaning house a little bit. This is from section Article 5 for intensity uses here. This table here shows the neighborhood business district and the text flex district here as well. I'm just going to highlight with the mouse pointer for you. As you can see, most of the uses here have a max built upon area percentage of 70%. We noticed that as we've been reviewing different applications that have come in, uses that are pretty similar that should also be given the approximate 70% of max built upon area, we're coming in and having to meet the 65%, and we thought that that wasn't consistent and that wasn't appropriate anymore. And so for those two zoning districts alone, we've changed it where it says all their uses from the 65 to the 70% for the max built upon area percentage. And those are the two UDO amendments we have for you today.
Can you define ultimate?
Absolutely. So
I was wondering that too.
So your current right-of-way is kind of where it's measured from now. So if that's back of curb, you have that where the road kind of ends. Say we want to come in and we want to expand that road from a 2-lane to a 3-lane. That right-of-way, the ultimate right-of-way, is going to be the line of when it's built out fully. So when that's our extra 3rd lane, we've taken more land as dedication to build that. So it's usually what it does is it brings everything closer in. So if you built to your current right-of-way, you build your driveway 20 feet like you were supposed to, but we come in and we're like, oh, we need to expand this now. Suddenly your driveway is only 17 feet, 15 feet, and now we have the potential for cars to be crossing sidewalk or things like that, and we don't want that.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking final, but ultimate gives room for the final to change.
Gives us some power, some oomph.
Yeah, and then all these are laid out in our transportation plan too. You can kind of see what the future is going to look like. They're usually really well thought out and well advanced.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll bring this to the board for any discussion on the amendments to the UDO. Do we need to vote on these all at one time or separate? One at a time? So first we'll be discussing.
No, you can
vote one vote.
You can have one vote if you want to do it that way.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
We
Do
have
we
a
need to
motion
have a public hearing? Thank you.
We have one motion to approve. Mr. Hastings, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We
Mayor.
have a second. All approve?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous decision. So that new business is passed. So we just need one more.
I will make a motion to end the meeting, but first I do want to welcome Mary Peterson to the board, who's joining us as the Historical Society representative. I don't think we did that at the beginning, but welcome, Mary.
Welcome, Mary.
Welcome.
All right, motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a second.
Second, with another comment, if and I realize this may be common knowledge and exciting information for others in the know, but the town manager posted, I believe it was on LinkedIn this morning, regarding the North Carolina Children's Hospital, and that's exciting to see. And so, if you haven't seen that link, go out, and the town manager does a great job of offering that to the community.
Fantastic.
Big win.
All right, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Great job, Chair.